Awesome. Welcome to the DDM podcast. I'm here with Blake Olsen and Gregg Bucell. And today we're going to be talking a lot about Blake's cool program. And of course, he is a CoreWorks driver this year, which is super exciting. So, first things first, Blake, let's quick go into, just so people don't know who you are and lived under a rock or something. You know, just give them a quick 20 seconds who you are, what you drive. And then I kind of want to get to Gregg on why he chose you to work with you this year.
Cool. Yeah, so name's Blake Olsen, born and raised in Las Vegas. Last year was my debut season in FD Pro 2. Ran a black E92 BMW. And
a fresh-looking BMW.
Yeah.
Very fresh.
Yeah, season started off good and then got kind of shaky, but this year fully prepped and basically ready to make it a good one. So, yeah, nice. Definitely stoked to work with Gregg and the guys over at Coros, so it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, Gregg, what made him worthy to vouch for the CoreWorks name?
It's a whole lot, and it's not so much a worthiness as much as, like, impression. So I think I've talked about it before with you, but let's rewind some time. We'll go back a few years ago to LS Fest West in Las Vegas. It's one of the first years, and so a lot of pros are out there helping out with the event. Nick Swan is organizing the event. I'm there helping out and stuff, and so it is. Rome Carpier was there. A lot of like really good drivers were there, and so the day's going out. We're watching practice go. We're seeing what's going on, and I see Blake in his car there. The whole day. I see him there, and I'm just waiting for this car to go. It's an RX-7. It's like ridiculously low and just looks badass. But he was having car issues all day, so I never really got to see the car. And I think he gets like the last practice run. You come out. He's like, yeah, he finally got the car going. I just want to get a run. Cool. Gets a run. Doesn't even run the track layout. Just cut it. Just like he's like on the track backwards. And all of a sudden it comes around backwards again, and like media doesn't know what the hell's going on. And he didn't even run the track layout, but he qualified first in our hearts. It was the gnarliest full throttle smoke show I've ever seen. And so that caught my attention. I was like, holy shit, this dude rips. And as time kind of progressed from there, I learned, okay, he had this S13 that was really sick, and he had a lot of style. And I'm like, dude, this dude's building really competitive drift cars that also look awesome. It's a very rough blend to have that function of form of drifting.
Very few people are able to pull it off.
Very few people have pulled off. It was easier in the late 90s, early 2000s to have a super low drift car, VN kit, and it compete on a pro level with the rest of the pros. Now that's kind of changed. You have to run like a 2F kit, which that means your body kit is now lower than most of the low body kits. And what that does, it kind of hides your ride height, and basically that style is not as competitive. If you want to run final bout, absolutely, that's that atmosphere. But Formula Drift, you can't bring those cars out there. I mean, Dave Briggs had a fully built SR car, and he just couldn't keep it up with the pros. I mean, there was a massive amount of turbo lag. The engine was unreliable compared to some of the others. It's just not the formula for competitive drifting. But then you look at Blake's program, and he's got it. He's got that, like, the cars aren't as low as they could possibly be. But I think, like, what is it, a quarter inch from scraping subframe? I'm saying these cars have style, man. And then the dude's a ripper. So we fast forward to now, my introduction to actually see him drive in Pro 2. And it was Formula Drift Orlando last year. And he comes out with a car that had basically no testing. He's testing at the track. So, like, he's learning what this whole new chassis does, how to work with this chassis, how they align. He's learning everything in FD Orlando round 1. And the dude qualifies 8th, I believe?
Yep.
8th on, like, the second or third run he's ever had in the car. Ever. And to qualify 8th in Pro 2 at Orlando is pretty hard, because that's a full impact track. All the points are basically on that bank. And the dude shoves his carbon-bodied BMW that is beautiful on the wall and nails a qualifying run. I'm like, all right, he's got my full attention. And as time has progressed, he's also become a friend. So not only is he a driver, he's a great friend. He's a good person to hang out with. He's a family guy as well. Him and his father get along really well. They're hands-on with their cars, and it just speaks everything. He has the attitude about drifting that I would look for in a driver as a person. So he's got the full package: cool-looking cars, experience, hard driver, determination, family guy, personality. He's got a full package. So I don't know why anybody else was sleeping on him. I feel like we got lucky.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Blake. Let's just get into this car, this BMW. It's a show car. Let's be honest. It's a show car. I don't know why you put it through the perils of drifting, because it is gorgeous. I mean, you have painted subframes. We were just looking at an article, and it looks like you ceramic coated your exhaust, or not ceramic coated. Is it ceramic coated your exhaust?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And just over the top everything. Everything's painted. Everything is beautiful. So why put all the time and effort in if you're just gonna go shred tires? And
why do that when you have to remember he has an FCRX7 at this time too.
Yeah.
He has other chassis that he could choose. So yeah, why do this to a BMW?
As far as the build and the detail and all that, I enjoy that part. I shouldn't say as much as driving, but a close second. Nerding out on the little tiny stuff, really making the car. I try to build it where, if I were looking at someone's car and was really, really analytical on every single detail, I want to have that sort of same quality to my own build. So, I enjoy doing that stuff and nerding out on all that. And then as far as the BMW goes, it's no secret as far as sponsorship and everything like that. You want to have a newer car. An E46 I was thinking about, and I mean, I'm willing to say they're about one of the best chassis you can build. You can get a ton of forward bite out of the car. They're fast, they're nimble, the wheelbase is pretty optimal for what we run. But at the end of the day, they still look like a 15, 20-year-old BMW. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, my car's creeping up on 10 as well now, but it looks a little newer. Mm-hmm. And I was stoked on the styling and just, it seemed, and they're starting to get cheaper when I started the build. Mm-hmm. So for finding a good, clean chassis, I got lucky with my car. It was a flood damaged car, had less than 20,000 miles on it. I think someone stopped making the payments and just let it roll into a boat on-ramp. And it sat in a yard for a few months, and the thing is pristine, not a single dent in the car. So, I mean, you couldn't ask for something better.
Wow.
I'm happy with it. I think being multi-link versus a trailing arm in the back, in comparison to an E46 or even my FC, that thing rips, and I have very little testing in that car as well. It takes some more time to get the speed out of the car with the rear suspension, but I think once you figure it out, as you can compare it to like Chris Stapp's car, that thing rips. That car is crazy fast, and once you get to that fine line, I think the car is going to be really competitive, and we're getting there. Car's definitely gotten a lot faster compared to where it was in Orlando and Atlanta. Had some other issues in Atlanta which I haven't really figured out or how it happened, but regardless, we're good now.
Yeah, and so another cool fact is about the amount of work that's went into this car. So, I mean, you started with a flooded vehicle, so we could just assume it's a fully stock car, 20,000 mile car. There's no modifications to it at all. So, shop, did you outsource the shop immediately to do this work? Were you already experienced in fabricating?
So it's a funny story. We built my RX-7 from the ground up. That thing was a long-term project. I mean, it's still almost finished. We're going through the wiring and stuff, which is what took me out at that LS Fest event a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. So we built my S13, went through that gradually. The FC was a full-on build, same thing, full rotisserie, full chassis paint, the whole nine. And each car we've learned a lot. And then when me and my dad decided that we wanted to run FD, we're like, you know what? We need to have a shop build the car for us because we just don't feel like we're up to the task. These guys have done it. They know what they can do. So we outsourced the job to this guy. His name was James Allen. The shop was called 18 Fab out in Arizona. They built Walker Wilkerson's S14 that he campaigned for 3 events. And, I had heard the guy, he talked the best game, and then other people told me, oh no, this guy can build you a nice car, whatever. And I'll be honest, his work was good. The problem was, and I don't even feel bad about talking shit about the guy because he was a terrible human being, Pretty sure he became addicted to I'm pretty sure he became addicted to painkillers when in the middle of the build. And it came to the point where like I had to go down there at least once a week, and he was in Phoenix and I'm in Vegas, just to keep track of him, to make sure that he was building, working on the car. And come to find out, the kid that was working with him at the shop, he had rushed stuff and all this. Well, fast forward, we pulled the car from the shop, lost a ton of money on the deal. And the only thing that we kept, because it was so tied into the car, was the main 4 points of the cage. Everything else completely cut. So he hung the quick change in the car. When I set ride height, he had the diff mounted less than a half inch off the ground. And charged a couple grand for that. Exactly. And that's
why even bother? Yeah.
Right. Because instead of asking Kevin for approval to cut part of the floor out, because the way the back of the car is, you can't get that big diff up high enough, he just did it and built it and said that's good enough. The rear tube chassis, which also had the sway bar built off it, was half inch out of square height wise, and it was crooked in the car by almost 3/4 of an inch. Just tons of stuff. So anyways, we learned a bunch, bought some new machinery, and built what I think is a pretty badass car.
So when you say we, you and your dad?
Yeah, just he and I, solely everything. So all the billet stuff that you see custom on the car, we machined. I drew them all up and programmed and all that. So it was a big learning curve, but luckily building the FC and knowing what I wanted to do different, and then taking some cues from like HGK, if you notice, like the way my motor's mounted off the heads of the motor down to the frame rails. Took sort of the way they mount their stuff, changed it up a little bit to what I thought would be more ideal. We have a mid-plate mount, just like what Osbo ran in his Corolla that Steph Papadakis does in all the cars. Took some stuff, was able to. It was nice because we were trying to rush to get the car ready for 2018.
Right.
And it didn't. Or I'm sorry, 2017. Shit, losing track of the years.
Surprise.
Yeah, 2017.
It's Tuesday, by the way.
Right. Yeah. No, so 2017 wasn't going to happen, because by the time we got the car from the guy in February, it barely had a cage in it. 2018, I shattered my knee, so that wasn't going to happen. I was getting the car close leading up to that, and then 2019 it did happen. But having that little bit of extra time to really see what people were doing, and really just think about everything, not just, hey, we got to get this done, get it done. It's like, hey, what could we do to make this better, do it the best way we possibly can? And there's a couple things I would do different. If I was going to build another car, seeing now that the car's all together and working on it, there's some stuff that could be easier or cleaner, more simple. But for the most part, we did. I'm really happy with it. I'm really proud of the car.
And for those people who haven't seen this car, he says there's like cleaner and simpler ways. I would love for you to look at pictures of this build and tell me how you would do it cleaner or simpler, because we were lucky to have the car at Koru Works for a little while we just stored his car, and then he prepped it for Atlanta and stuff. Just that's when I really got to know Blake on a personal level. But we were able to look over the car at Koru and go, oh shit, this is way nicer than Ryan Z. There's no, and I mean this in the best. Ryan Z is a high horsepower drift car. Everything is where it's supposed to be. It's there. We could get it out if needed. It's done. Blake's car everything's mounted at the most convenient place. Everything looks aesthetically pleasing. There's no say you're trimming a panel to cover something, just a shroud, where we would just kind of cut it out how it needs to, smooth it out, whatever it is, maybe spray paint it and stick it on. If it works great. Blake, on the other hand, will go, oh, I found this old piece of carbon fiber off of what did you get? You got
my fuel tank. I got I work at for my work at a racetrack. They basically gave me a wrecked tub from like an FIA certified car, and since it's cracked, you can't repair it, so they just gave it to me. Yeah, so I have like some really trick honeycomb carbon shit that I've been making, little detail stuff. So like the whole top of my fuel cells out of that, some little block off panels. But yeah.
Yeah. So, even just like the rear firewall, like how it's pieced together around the roll cage, it's perfect. The cabin sealed off beautifully. It's gorgeous. And so when you see somebody put that much attention to detail something, they actually care about it. And you're kind of like me too, in the sense of I have an addiction with Legos. I love building the Legos, and then when I'm done with them, I stick them on a shelf. I will never ever ever play with them. I don't play with Legos, but I build the shit out of them. And so I see where that sense in, okay, building the car is almost as fun as actually drifting.
Yeah.
Because it shows in your build quality.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned some interesting things that you did with it, like the head mounts or mounting the engine by the heads. Why did you do that? I'm just kind of curious because it's obviously not a very common thing to do.
Yeah. So it freed up, and unfortunately, I learned about this through experience. I didn't want to have the motor tied to the subframe in case you had to switch the subframe.
Yeah.
Fast forward to a couple weeks after Atlanta, car got hit, tweaked the whole front of the car, but I think part of the reason that the frame stayed pretty straight is because, one, the motor becomes a secondary bulkhead, which it sounds bad, but it's plenty strong.
Yep.
As well as the bell housing, but it completely tore the subframe out of the car, so I was able to completely change that out without really disconnecting anything mechanical other than the steering column shaft. And by doing so, it also freed up a lot more room for the headers. So I had this guy out in Kingman, Arizona, build a set of custom equal length step. They're really, really badass looking, and they just look like a bowl of spaghetti under there. But they, the car sounds amazing, and they make a bunch of power. The dude that built my exhaust is the one that did the 8-1 header on Tanner's Passat a few years ago, and then he's also the one I think that did the headers for when Dean went to the twin turbo on the Viper.
Yep.
So the guy knows
the two dopest header systems in drifting.
Right.
That's all you have to say. Like the coolest. Yeah.
The guy's crazy. He does a bunch of stuff for like trophy truck teams, and he flies back east and does stuff for NASCAR teams for parts of the year. So he knows his shit. I mean, Andy is really. He's built a few things for me, and he's really, really cool. So, yeah, putting the heads or mounting off the heads, they just made everything just a little bit more simple. The power steering pump goes right to it. The front drive on my car is extremely simple. All I have is the crank pulley, the alternator, and then the power steering with one idler, and the actual alternator is the tensioner. Yep. So I have a tiny little belt on the bottom of the motor. Just, once again, just trying to simplify and clean everything up as much as possible.
Are you a turn power steering pump or an electric?
So I'm running a KRC, so hydraulic.
KRC? Okay, hydraulic, yeah. Everything sounds pretty simple. Honestly,
Yeah.
It's a WiseFab front and rear kit, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. What coilovers?
Stance. So David Stance, he made me some custom three-ways for the car, and they seem great. He helped out quite a bit when I was going, even though he wasn't there. In Orlando, basically between every single run and him watching some of the live stream and that type of thing. We're going back and forth texting literally when I was exiting the track on what adjustments he thinks I should make, what did I feel out of the car, and that helped out a ton.
So as a Pro 2 driver, having that access to a manufacturer is just as much a value sometimes as here's a $500,000 check and some product.
Oh, exactly. Because I had the option to go with Nitron, which is who builds all the stuff for the HGK cars. I hit them up, and without them knowing anything about me, they actually offered me a really good deal where it would have been cheaper than the Stance setup, but I had to weigh it out. It's like, I know the product's good, I know they can build a really badass setup, but if I have an issue or I need to ask them something, not only are they in Europe, but they're not going to be there. They don't offer that support. So yeah, having that, not to say trackside support, but just being able to have that line of communication, that's invaluable. It's huge.
Yeah, and something that I don't think a lot of drivers think about, and this is kind of a different side of that. Like a common question is, why does everyone run the same or similar body kits in FD? And it's because of availability.
Right.
And like the S chassis and stuff is because you have to be able to get spares, you have to be able to, in a timely manner, and you have to be able to basically, if you need a part overnighted,
right,
have the ability to do it, or in like your case, if you need help or support, you got it at the track. And so a lot of complaints about FD are, why don't people run these super rare, crazy Japanese kits or stuff like that? But it's like, logistically, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially when a kit takes 6 months to get here,
Yeah, exactly.
So it's something that you got to think logistically when you're running a series, especially when you want to keep all your body panels on, you got to replace them. But like obviously in your case, you wanted to work with a suspension company that's able to help you along the way.
Yeah.
Again, and that's one of the pluses and minuses of working with the companies that are there. Maybe not as, like, I guess in your case, would you say the other company is a little bit more prestigious, or is it just a rare?
Outside of HGK now, Greg, you might be able to correct me. Is anyone else running Nitron?
Not that I know of, actually. It's like an Olsen style.
That's what I was just gonna say.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know that company, so I didn't know.
So they
But-
are. When you say prestigious, I would go ahead and say yes. I wouldn't say that they're significantly better than Stance by any means, or feel, or.
But
Fortune.
it's just like a name thing, at that point.
It is. It's kind of just like Sawbelt, which I think you've worked with as well, correct? Like you've had some of the stuff.
Yeah.
You've had Sparko. So it's this company now. When you look at Sawbelt, I'll use them as an example. They are a prestigious company. This is the seatbelt that comes on F1 cars now.
Yep.
This is the seatbelt that comes factory on McLarens, on I believe certain Ferraris, and those are real race cars. Drifting is, again, like skateboarding, where we don't have an Olympic event or anything like that. Drifting is still just very, very young in motorsports.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at Sawbelt, nah, that's an OG. That's the legit shit. Like, Sparko's dope. Sawbelt's like tight. But that's the same thing. It's like a Nitron or Olin's coilover. Those cars, they come on like LMT cars. I've seen them on some of the fastest Nürburgring cars. They do OEM integration assistance with some certain high performance cars. So yes, they do have experience, but they're not as accessible as as Stance. And Stance offers an amazing coilover. You've been running Stance on all your cars, correct?
Yeah, FC, S13, yeah, I mean, and this car, obviously, and they've been great,
So you've been loyal to Stance as well, beyond a sponsor, as a consumer as well. Because I'm sure you had an S13, you had them on there. I'm sure you just bought some Stance coilovers for it, correct?
So I bought the car and it actually had them, and then when I started doing really well with it, and when I was sort of teamed up with the Animal Style guys, Dave built me some custom tuned for like the real low ride height and stuff, and once we put those on the car, the thing was amazing. I mean, it was good before, but that made a huge difference, and I already had them on the FC, so it was an easy decision to stick with that moving forward with the BMW.
Yeah. So product loyalty and brand loyalty also played into that.
Yeah.
Because you could have had, arguably, again, a substantially more significant product, but that wasn't the end goal now.
Yeah.
Exactly. Having you being able to call Dave, again, call him by his first name, people don't really notice. Calling like the head honcho at Toge Factory, which is also Stance, and just being like, yo, I'm at a track day. I need your help on a Friday, whatever it is. Stop what you're doing. I need your help. And them extending themselves to you. That's another thing also. You're loyal to your sponsors. So if we want to resort back to what we were talking about, why would you choose him? Look at his sponsor sheet. It's consistent.
Yeah, I mean, we add a couple things per season, but I mean, the people that have been good to me, I'll stick with them unless there's something that's offered, like you said. I mean, that's just substantially better for whatever reason. But I mean, as far as I go, I want to try to overproduce for all my sponsors. They put themselves in the line to help me out, so that's the least I can do is, stick with them. And it's worked out. I'm happy with my program, my partners, and everything. So it's been cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm just kind of looking over the car right now. I mean, Greg sent me an article on it, and it just shows all of the time and effort. I mean, the cage is ridiculous, and all of the interior is clean and painted, and every inch of this car, even like you said, like we talked about earlier, the underside is clean and just gorgeous looking.
Yeah.
What? Couple other questions. So I kind of work in the LS world a little bit. Again, I don't build cars. I don't pretend to know a whole bunch about cars at all. I just film them for the most part. But I do work at a company that does a lot of LS work. I noticed there's no power adders on there. Right. So what's the story on the old LS that's in there?
So I was lucky enough. So it was one of those situations where something bad turned into something good. So we were trying to get my FC tuned, and that has a good motor. It's a 416-inch LS3 high compression dry summed, and we're at this shop in Havasu in Arizona, and we were trying to dyno it, and then something happened where they had the timing so far off that it literally spun backwards and broke teeth off the flywheel. So that ended the day. Had to pull the motor and change all that. But the shop that I was at, we had to buy parts, and they sent me to another shop right up the street. And it's this place called EFI University. So what they do, the main guy, Ben Strader there, who's the one that built my motor, he does basically schools, 3 2-day programs. He travels, does them remotely, but has a huge shop there of proper engine building as well as EFI tuning. So a few years back in drag racing, when they switched all the pro stocks to fuel injection, he was sort of at the forefront as far as helping them figure out how to get those motors tuned, which that's about the closest type of racing there is. So anyways, started a conversation with him, everything, and he's really tied in with comp cams and that whole conglomerate. So he helped me get a sponsorship through them, and we sort of started talking, and his specialty is high RPM, high horsepower, naturally aspirated LSs. So his personal LS back in October, which has been sort of a project, and it's not even in its gnarliest version, it's a 350-inch LS7, so a pretty short stroke, super high compression, close. I think it's over 17-to-1. He spun it almost up to 11,500 RPM. Yeah. So. Disgusting. Right. So and he has some crazier heads on it with a lot more. So he's really, really good with valve train stability and that type of thing. So when we told him what we wanted to do, and I love the way Chris Dapp's car sounded, that setup that he has for mast. Big cubic inch, high compression. His motor is creeping up on 9,000 RPM. And I'm like, I want to do something similar to that. So, we went through, got the block. It's a RHS block, RHS heads, off the shelf, but really nice internals, all forged and everything, custom pistons. So it's almost 16-to-1 compression, 440 cubic inch. And it made on the engine stand just shy of 800 horsepower, naturally aspirated. But
440 cubic inch. LS, what is that? An LS?
So it's based off an LS7.
It's an RHS block, so.
Yeah. RHS block, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so the oiling's a little different. Then we have that real pretty, the daily engineering pan on it and stuff. And
that pan is beautiful. It is it's beautiful. It's just one of those things. It's just like, but why?
Right.
This is billet aluminum oil pan that no one will ever see.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to see what we're talking about, it's on Phoenix Performance Plumbing. They did a nice article. You could just Google Blake Olsen Formula Drift D92, and you kind of see a nice photo reel of what we're looking at. But that oil pan.
Unfortunately, you have a skid plate that hides it, so you can't see it underneath the engine. But just if anyone wants to look at something beautiful, that oil pan is, because we use it at Lingenfelter on a lot of our race cars that we work with.
It's funny. I was just giving Andrew Schulte some shit because he broke the bolt going into his oil pump on the front of the pan, and I was like, why the hell is your oil pan so dirty? I was like, that's the nicest part on your car.
Right.
Oh, Schulte. No, this is awesome because so each time you've kind of talked about somebody as well, a lot of these people are not into drifting. So do you come from a different background from drifting, or your dad come from a different background?
Yeah. So my dad came from off-road racing. He grew up in Arizona, and desert racing was big there. So he raced ATCs and then moved to quads and then moved over to off-road cars. And then once I was a little bit older, I sort of got out of that and just got into sand rails and that type of thing. And then I think I was 12 or 13, he got me into what's called a dwarf car, which is similar to a sprint car, runs on a dirt oval, motorcycle powered.
Yeah.
And once so we got into that, ran the national stuff with that, and did well. And then moved over to legend cars, which are similar but on asphalt oval and road course.
Okay.
Right.
And did really well in both of those disciplines as well. And then that moved into drifting.
Yeah.
And, so it's been lucky enough to get my feet wet with a bunch of different types of motorsports, and for my job
Do you
coach
think
road course. So
Do you think growing up driving has helped you a lot when you first got into drifting and just?
oh yeah, no, 100%. Especially, it's like, when you're racing on dirt, especially when you're in like I said, like running like a national, you're starting like the A main with almost 30 cars. So I mean, once you hit the green, you're going 3-4 wide with 3 rows behind you, 4 rows behind you.
Yeah.
When you get comfortable with that, then it's like, hey, I'm gonna go tandem with a single car. It's not that big a deal. A lot of that anxiety was sort of gone right off the bat. And just the car control, it helps a ton.
Mm-hmm.
So
I heard like especially like dirt track racing, left foot braking is like really important.
It is. Yeah,
So
and it's funny is my S13 and my FC, I never really felt the need to ever have to left foot brake. The cars of my S13 was quick, but I always kept it set up pretty loose,
okay.
where I could slow the car down enough with just throttle modulation. But now with the BMW and just having to step things up, especially make it competitive or try to get it competitive, you have so much grip in the car that you really have to start left foot braking. So it's something I just finally started doing more of, and it sort of opened my eyes. I was like, shit, why haven't I been doing this more?
yeah.
But,
Yeah.
So trick question: would you rather run Pro 1 or World of Outlaws series full season, Mac Daddy, Tony Stewart style? It's okay.
no, I know.
You
I
are-
have to say, a lot of people are going to say that. I mean, I'll be the first one to say drifting is my life. I mean, everything I do working, it's to get money to be able to put it back into the car and into the program. But shit, if an offer came up like that, I would have to probably go to the sprint car.
Yeah.
It's something I've always wanted to do, and I love drifting, and it's something that I could always come back to. But yeah, something that's just I feel like that's the gnarliest motorsport there is.
It's a hardcore fan too. It's
Yeah.
the hard. My backyard was a dirt track, Dixie Speedway, which was kind of cool. If in the southeast, it's a pretty well known track.
Yeah.
And because we had the Georgia red clay, and it's a little bit grippier and stuff like that. So, anyways, growing up at dirt track, I have like this certain taste for that shitty cheese that they have with the nachos and like the crappy salsa. And I remember sitting there on a blanket on concrete bleachers and being mind blown. And like every time a car rounded the corner, you're like, he's gonna wreck. And they just do this heavy flick, and then the car just sticks. But that heavy flick, if it's 0.2 seconds late, they are gonna wreck. And it's when these cars wreck, it is a beautiful wreck. Like, it's a small track, tight turns, most dirt tracks are, but like those fences get used more than like the walls. Like they barely, they're wrapping themselves in fences, and so it is like the gnarliest form of motorsports. I mean, it combines the most exciting aspect of drag racing, which is the wheelie popping, with the most exciting thing of drifting, which is the loss of car control, and then the best thing of monster trucks, it's on dirt. Like, it's everything you want in motorsports.
Yeah.
It's $5 to go watch. So I get it. It's ran every weekend at most tracks. But I would have to say drifting is just a classier version of that.
Right.
It's like
If you can put the word classy by drifting at all, I mean, I guess it'd be that.
I mean, we all have our shirts on at Formula Drift. That's the classier version. That's the only difference. It's the spectator's almost the same spectator. I mean, there's not many motorsport events that you could go to where you can see the whole race right in front of you. Even NASCAR's kind of hard. We only run portions of the racetrack, and that's so like. There's only a few forms of motorsports where you'll get people on their feet, let alone a whole crowd of people on their feet. Mm-hmm. And so drifting has that same aspect. It's like dirt track. Dirt track, you'll just see the bleachers rise up at any given moment. Last lap, everybody's on their feet. So I get it.
All right, Blake. So obviously you had a slight wreck last year, but it sounds like you got the car back together. But also, we were talking a little bit earlier. You had to make some changes for the new rules for FD this year. So you want to kind of go into just the basic changes you made into the car for this year, along with what FD was kind of doing?
Yeah, so after we got the car back together, after the wreck, redesigned the rear subframe, made it a little bit more accessible, permitting if I ever break an input shaft in the quick change, I can change it a lot easier without actually having to drop the diff.
Okay.
Changed the suspension pivot within FD rules a little bit, so it gave the car a bit more forward bite, so it just made it faster. I was blown away the first time I went and tested after that. Helped out a ton. And then
So doing that, is it more grip? At what point is it just grip in general, or is there certain parts of the drift that you find the grip in?
So it's more just when you're on throttle. So the car, that was something I noticed right away in Orlando, was the car has a ton of side bite. It was really difficult to trust it and throw it hard enough to get all the way out to like outer zone 2 after the transition on the infield, because the car had so much grip. You almost had to feel like you were going to fly up the bank to even make it out there. But so the side bite was never an issue. But the forward bite, once you hit the car at angle and you start getting on the gas, I just noticed that cars just start getting away from me a little bit, and it was just really difficult. I'm trying to pedal it, trying to get it to hook up, and I just couldn't get the car quick enough. And permitting, I wanted to leave the car fairly loose. It's, people, they laugh when I tell them when I was in Orlando, I never went below about 35, 36 PSI in the rear. I was really running the tires really hard just to keep it loose enough so I didn't have any issue on the bank. But
you were also running Achilles though, right?
True.
So that helps.
Yeah, it does help, yeah. Yeah, I know, like most guys are running low 20s in Achilles, and then the guys in the Nexans were getting down into the low teens. I didn't really...
You're still 800 horsepower on 255.
Right.
I don't care if super glue makes the tires. It's still a battle.
Yep. Yeah, so we could have gotten more grip from doing so, but I also didn't want to put myself in a position where I couldn't get the car to break loose enough on the bank, because like Greg said, that was the biggest impactful part of the run. But then fast forward to the car getting wrecked, getting it rebuilt, putting the new subframe in. First time I went out and tested, it was on the road course here in Vegas, pretty big sweepers, pretty fast. It was so weird is that the car would build speed in the corner. As you'd get the car set, you'd start accelerating through, and the thing would actually start picking up momentum. And what it was doing is we basically made a change to where the, just affected the anti-squat in the rear end. And it was weird is when I ran the car, I did not have any of the body panels on it. I had doors on it, but that was it. And normally in the back, the car squats so much under throttle that the tire would start to rub the inner fender if I really hit any type of surface, undulation.
Yep.
Every picture I saw, there was still about 4 inches between the tire and the top of the fender. So the car wasn't squatting. It was almost forcing a mechanical bind where it's pushing the tire into the ground.
Interesting.
And it was a sort of a physics type thing that we used to do with the dirt track cars. When you watch like a dirt late model, for example, and they get on the throttle and the wheel actually drives underneath the car. Because a lot of people don't get that, is that squat's not always a good thing. You want the car soft, you want the car compliant, but at the same time, ultimately you want it to be pushing the tire into the ground. So making that change, it just made the geometry change through the travel just a lot more aggressive. It made the car toe in a little bit more under compression, but overall it was just messing with the anti-squat. So that was a big change in the positive direction as far as making the car quicker. And then for this year, just from the rule change, FD mandated they want us to run an Sfi Certified Bellhousing, which, not a problem. LS to a 4-bolt style dog box, no big deal. The problem for me is we talked about my headers being all custom on the car and everything, and they weren't cheap, but also all the plumbing on the car. We run a reverse mount starter. So my starter actually spins off the ring off the very front of the clutch. So the starter's all the way back by the transmission. Well, the only SFI certified bell housing for a reverse mount starter is not the proper certification. It's not rated for the 30-pound clutch and flywheel and everything. It's rated for an automatic for some reason.
You hate to hear it.
Yep.
The only one. So, almost had it.
Yep, almost had it. Yeah, I was searching. I was talking to Rick at RTS about it, and he couldn't find anything. Well, then luckily they added in the rules because there's, infinite power plants and infinite transmissions that people can run in drifting. Well, there's only 15 bell housings. So with that, they made a rule that you can build a 360-degree surround scatter shield at a 1/4-inch thick sheet metal, just steel, and it has to go 1 inch in front of the flywheel and 1 inch past the back of the clutch. And if you can build that, then I didn't have to get rid of my bell housing. So
And that's easy.
Yeah.
You're building a safe around a transmission, basically, a bulletproof safe.
Yeah. Now going in, I mean, I understand why they're doing it. It's a safety thing, and I'm all for safety in motorsports. But when I talked to Tilton and Quartermaster, and they're the ones I run their clutch, I asked them at PRI in Indiana. I was like, hey, do you guys make an SFI certified one of these bell housings? And they both people laughed, or both representatives from both companies, because they've said, we've never seen one of our small, because I run the 7 1/4 clutch, we've never seen one of these clutches ever scatter. They said back in the 80s, just for fun, we spun them over 30,000 RPM fine. And they're better now, that's what they said. So like, we've never had an issue. But I have to appease the rule book, obviously. So now we're making this little scatter shield, which, going back to my way of doing things, I'm probably spending a lot more time on it than I should, but it's going to come out a lot nicer than most people's are. So it'll be nice. I mean, taking a positive from a negative, I guess. At least the weight that we're throwing in the car, it's all low and everything. It's behind the axle, so it's not the end of the world.
It's a glass half full, but if you follow Blake on social media, you'll notice that it's a little bit more than just kind of throwing some 3/4 inch around the transmission bell housing. And plus, I mean, you have to make it so it's easy, very easy to remove, because now it's around the bell housing. So.
Right. And that's what makes it tricky, is we're not allowed to connect it to the bell housing. It actually has to be fastened to the chassis. But another thing, so the bell housing that I run has the ears off the side of it, and it actually connects to the tunnel of the car. So like, I can pull the motor out of the car and the transmission, everything stays in. I can pull the trans out, but the motor stays in. I mean, I made it, once again, just trying to go back to the serviceability of the vehicle. And, I couldn't just remove that part, because that is pretty structural. Otherwise, it'd be the front of the heads would be holding the motor, and then the very back of the tail shaft of the transmission. That's a lot of weight just to be, sort of suspended. Yeah. So by doing so, we built the car to that. And the transmission that I run, it's just a NASCAR dog box, cup quality, nice transmission. Mm-hmm. We didn't have to modify the tunnel at all. So my tunnel is completely stock. All I did was cut out the top to be able to get to the linkage. Yeah. But because of that, and with my motor being super far back, I don't have a lot of room to play with in regards to that, that new scatter shield. So that's why I have to really take my time. I can't just make some big thing like I've seen some people do. It's got to be pretty trick to make it fit and keep everything the same. It'll be good when it's done.
Thank God for the little bit of extra time you got in the FD schedule, though, just kind of make all those changes. Seriously, and make them proper, though.
Yeah.
So you just spackling something together. Like, what do you think about the FD schedule? You as a Pro 2 driver.
I'm indifferent about it. I was happy that the way that was before, everything was going to be pretty much all the East Coast and then come back west for Sonoma. And Texas isn't that bad for me. If I really had to, I could make it in one day. So that's, I'm excited that we're going to Texas. I feel like for myself personally, I am a lot better on road courses than I am. I mean, I know FD's not running any parking lot type events, and Pro-Am, that's pretty prominent, but I shouldn't say I hate, but I'm not great on parking lots. I like more visual references. I love road courses. Ovals, I really didn't like till I did decent in Orlando. I've never really been good on an oval, because most Pro-Am stuff, you don't really run it too often.
Yeah.
Unless you're from the Midwest, then that's all you do.
You just run ovals everywhere.
Yeah. The first time I ever ran an oval was for the Vegas Pro-Am season in 2015. We had to go to Colorado for it, and the one at Colorado National Speedway, it's not quite as big as Irwindale. Mm-hmm. I guess it's pretty comparable, I guess, in size, maybe slightly bigger than Orlando, but steeper. So
very intimidating.
Level car. It was intimidating. Me and then Joe Tardif that was running at the time. he and I qualified. I qualified first. He qualified second. He and I were the only ones that were able to swallow our pride enough and know to initiate, not on the straightaway, but actually have to initiate in the oval on the bank, because no one had cars that back then that could run it, and we were the only ones that were able to stay up to the wall because of doing so. So, I'm excited. I'm not going to miss Orlando too much. I liked it. I would have liked to come back with more experience, more trust in the car. I'm excited to see what they do at Englishtown. I think that's going to be pretty cool. From the rumor mill of what I sort of hear might be happening, should be cool. Sonoma's still on the schedule, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sonoma's going to be tits. That's going to be fun. I've never driven it, but I was able to help out my buddy who's going to be running Pro 2 this year, Mike Power.
Oh, yeah.
I went out there and sort of played crew chief / spotter for him, and he ended up actually winning that Pro-Am shootout out there. And that track's awesome, so I can't wait. That one's going to be a lot of fun.
It's beautiful out there, too.
It's
beautiful out there. It's the exact opposite of where you live. Take where you live and just, cover it in green and just, get rid of all the... Actually, literally everything you have, get rid of it. And you get Sonoma. It's great. How is Vegas to live? Because you live just a little bit outside of Las Vegas, correct? What people think of Las Vegas?
Yeah, I'm technically in Las Vegas. It's Vegas is one of those things. It's there's four cities or whatever you want to call it, but they're all in the same Central Valley. So basically, no matter where you're at, you can be to the Strip in 20 to 25 minutes.
Okay,
right.
It's all I've ever known. Born here, went to high school here, everything like that. So I like it. I'm used to the heat. That's most people's biggest gripe, is it does get hot here. I'm used to that. It does get fairly cold in the winter. Obviously not as cold as you guys in Michigan by any means, but for us, when you get down below 30, it starts getting chilly. Yeah.
That's stupid.
Yeah, but it was 70 degrees today.
Yeah,
even dumber.
I was outside tanning today.
I like Vegas. There's so much motorsport, and so many companies are based out of California that if you need to order something or buy something, you get it the next day. If you actually have to go there, you can get it that day.
Mm-hmm.
So you're close enough to that. You're close to the beach. We have the lake. We have snowboarding and stuff up in the mountains during the winter. So I like it. I don't have any plans unless it was for work or something of that nature to really move.
How is drifting there?
The drift scene's good. Nick Dizon that runs Vegas Drift, he puts basically his whole life into it. That's his thing. And, he's built a really good community out of it. And, I'm lucky enough to have come through those ranks. And, he and I are really good friends, and I can help out.
Nice guy.
Yeah.
All around, actually.
Yep.
Yeah, makes a great cup of coffee. Really nice guy, actually.
Right?
That's what I know about him. Great, mean cup of coffee, super nice.
Yeah. Nick, he has the better interest of drifting at heart. He's not doing it to try to make money or make a living off it by any means. I mean, if he breaks even or comes out a little bit ahead, awesome. But it's his life. He goes to Japan regularly. I mean, he's really into it. So no, the drift scene here is good.
So is there more than just the one track that you guys can go drift down there?
Yeah. So basically, all of the events that we run at, or that Vegas Drift runs, they're all going to be on the Speedway property out there.
Yep.
And it varies. There's basically three parts that they can run on. So we can run the outside road course, which that's usually 3 to 4 times a year, just because it's a bit more as far as rental goes, to get all that prepped and everything like that, and have the fire and safety for that big of operation.
So do they just send you out and run that full road course? Because I've seen the road course and I've watched Optima run it, like normal race cars. Mm-hmm. So where's the main drifting sections of that track?
So what they'll usually do is it'll be broken up into 2 different segments. So they'll have almost like an A run group, more, the more advanced.
The tandem people.
Yeah. And usually whenever we run that, there's multiple ways to feed into it, but we always utilize the 2 big sweepers. Because those corners are long enough, sustained, really consistent radius that it allows you to really suck up to drivers, and it makes it exciting for the spectator. Mm-hmm. And there's a few ways to get into that. And then they'll use some of the tighter, more technical parts for the more beginner type portion.
Gotcha.
And then the skid pad or the paddock area is so big that they'll mark off a part of that and have small wetted skid pad, just something for the really beginners to play around with.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the road course is fun. It's fast. Fourth gear entry, and it's cool.
I mean, plus like the parking lots, let alone like skid pads and stuff. You can basically do whatever you want out there.
Yeah.
Like.
Well, yeah.
That is true. Right. The amount of asphalt out there is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, you go out there for any event. Like I go out there for LS Fest, Optima, and a couple other events throughout the year, and it's just you drive and you're just driving to nothing.
Right.
And then all of a sudden there's this motorsports park, and it's just you got the NASCAR track, you got the dirt track, you got the amazing road course, you have all the garages you have. And and there's just so much there, and then you also get an air show while you're there too, because you got the Air Force right there. But it's such a crazy unique facility that's just in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, you're almost all the way out to Utah basically, and then all of a sudden there's a huge motorsports complex.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. I mean, you're lucky enough to have that. Like a lot of us don't really have any of that,
Right.
It's kind of like the same thing Pat's done with Florida, like Orlando and what he's done with OSW, him and like Tommy and the guys down there, like that's now like their safe haven. That is where you go.
Yep.
Not only that, but he's created probably in drifting the most famous skid pad. I would say the OSW skid pad's probably the gnarliest skid pad in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a skid pad.
Right.
That's exactly that. But I think how Pat runs the events down there, I know our good friend Nick as well. When you team them two up together and you say, okay, run a drift event, here's the block of land, you get one of the most fun drift events out there.
Yeah. Swan's awesome. I mean, I'd say arguably he runs the best events in Vegas. It's almost a shame that not in Vegas, in the States.
Yeah.
Well, in Vegas too. I mean, he's pretty much ran I think every LS Fest since they've been doing the drifting part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's almost a shame that he's working for Dirk. It'd be nice if he could run grid for FD and make things probably a little bit quicker.
And I really hope that for him. I would love to see that. I would love to see Swan out there.
Right.
But I know you know Swan just like I do, and you did a podcast with him and I. Swan sometimes gets into work mode, and he's not the same person. Nick Swan
just don't get on his bad side.
Right.
Oh my! Well, his bad side is great. His bad side like 5 years ago was like a whole nother thing. His bad side now is just he just won't talk to you. You're dead to him. All right, cool. You exist. Like that's his bad side. But like, dude, he gets into a work mode, and he's not like don't say a joke. Don't kid. This is work, And he is one of the most professional people. When he is working, he's one of the most professional people. At 5:01, if it's a 9 to 5 at 5:01, that dude becomes one of the most fun people to hang out with. And so yeah, you want to say some of the most fun drift events? Absolutely. And you ever ran with Brian Eggert actually?
Mm-hmm.
At like some of his events? Brian Eggert runs a really fun event.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Eggert's a blast. You go to VIR, what's that event? VIR?
Hyperfest.
Yeah.
God, man, Brian Eggert is the fun maker at Hyperfest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good guy. Good guy.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff all over the country. So I guess we can kind of go into what's kind of your goals for this year. What's kind of obviously you want to win Pro 2, but what's something that you're looking to really learn or grow or what's kind of go more that side of it.
Yeah. Leading up to the start of the year, I'd really like, we're on track right now, especially with the season starting late, is going to get a lot of seat time. So just get a lot more test time, really just try stuff on the car. We're changing up the sway bars as well. We're actually going to a bladed style bar like what Papadakis puts on, on those cars. So I'm waiting for those parts. They actually are coming from Britain to get those blades for those. But so just experiment, just trial and error on the vehicle, get really comfortable knowing exactly what does what with it. So that way, when we show up to first round's New Jersey, right? For Pro 2?
Atlanta, I think, isn't it?
No,
No, we're
Jersey.
not at
No,
Atlanta.
it is New Jersey.
Yeah.
I wish you were doing Atlanta. God, I wish. I
Oh
were
wait,
doing Atlanta.
that's right. Pro 2's not in Atlanta. That's
Yeah.
so dumb.
I know.
It's so dumb, man. Pro 2, because that track's so good for a 255 Pro 2 lineup. Like
Right.
those cars, just kind of how the track sweeps and you work with
Yeah.
the elevation. Like,
and camera.
Yeah.
And I love shooting that track because it's so easy to shoot. We're right there. We get a good, and then yeah. But then last year, obviously, the whole rain happened and messed everything up.
Yeah.
Dude,
that
I mean,
that
if you
was
think,
brutal.
at the finals, the cars were covered in mud, and that
Oh,
was kind of
yeah.
cool. Like, you say it ruined it. I
Well,
think
yeah,
it
but like,
made it
okay,
best
but
looking
the
photo
point is
opportunity.
like, you got Pro 2 practicing, and you know what? You guys get like 6 runs, all in the dry, perfectly dry track, and then as soon as
2
qualifying starts, it just pours. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
I
great, this is great,
Yep. I'm gonna sound like the biggest complainer. I feel like I got screwed on that the most because my first run.
You were a top, we got part of the top section. You were in the top graph from
Right.
Orlando,
Yeah,
so all the people in the top got screwed, and
Yep.
everyone in the bottom of the bracket got somewhat of a dry track at some point.
Yeah, I think 14 of the 16 that made it into the top 16 were like, they were like almost like the first 14 drivers, which were the last 14 in points. It was crazy. I think only like 2 or 3 people actually put scoreable runs together in the rain. But I remember my first run sucked. I straightened out, and then the next run we went back to a dry setup, and literally in the burnout box, I started watching my tire smoke go away. And like it just started raining, and
Thick.
for whatever reason, I remember like the car just fucking dug off the line, and I remember going to the initiation. I'm like, oh shit, like I'm going way too fast right now, and like started trying to slow down. Entered like it was almost super sick, like backwards, and then right when I got back to the power, the car straightened. So I was pissed. I just basically ran the limiter and
Just limit, dude, and then just lit it up.
Yep.
But it was great because, like, we saw aggression and frustration, yeah, absolutely in that run. But I also remember you just laying in the limiter, finishing the track, and going, "Holy shit!" Because he did it. He ran the track on limiter and like did it and left and like. Yeah, even like, and your car was so loud. I remember Jared just like commenting something about it, like, "Holy crap!"
Yeah.
like, the dude just laid it on, and yeah, that's your Formula D experience coming into this year, though, is what we've talked about in Orlando and Atlanta.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So going into this year, realistically, it'd be awesome, which I don't think it's out of the question whatsoever, is qualify for every event. That's an easy goal to attain, but as we know, especially Pro 2 with having less spots to make and so many people that move up and everything, I think Orlando, we had almost 50 drivers or 46 or something like that.
Yeah, and it's going to be,
really,
from what it sounds like and what I've heard, it's going to be just as many this year.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, making the show, that's great because, there's so many variables that can come into play when, just in qualifying alone. Once you get into comp, I feel like a lot more calm with that.
Mm-hmm.
So qualifying for each event, that'd be awesome. I'd love to show up to New Jersey and have a really good setup on the car. Everything feels perfect. All that would be great. Get some podiums, obviously win something, it'd be amazing. But I think just, getting on the podium a couple times and qualifying for everything would be awesome.
Absolutely. So, and there's another BMW, a newer BMW in Pro 2 from Brockway, Donovan. Do you guys ever talk about chassis? Is his a newer chassis, or is it the same?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, so his is a newer. His is a 2 Series. Front suspension is pretty much identical. I believe our subframes swap one car to the other. His wheelbase is a little shorter. I want to say it's about 4 inches shorter than my car. The rear subframe is similar but different. And he's actually the one that helped me with when I said I changed some of the pickup points on my subframe. The tabs that I have on my car right now, he actually sent me.
Nice.
He was basically in talks with some developmental stuff, and he asked, he said, "Hey, do you want to try these?" And we put them on, and they worked. And he had the same result. He felt it made his car a lot better. No, Donovan's awesome. I've known him. We ran 2013, 2014 Top Drift at Willow Springs. We were both running in the same, and then he moved up quicker than I did from that. But that was back when he was running a red little E30 with a stock BMW motor with like a big turbo and some like bolt-on flares and stuff. Looked nothing like his his pro car is
That thing.
beautiful. I mean, it has.
Yeah.
So
You guys need a tandem
has-
together. Just one run. Just please this year. I
right?
need you guys two together.
Yeah,
Let's give some style.
I'd love to do that. No, that'd be awesome. It's funny is, I mean, so he has that full carbon Kevlar HGK kit,
Mm-hmm.
and then the car's wrapped. You can't even tell. I mean,
I
it's
know.
Why
so
would you do that?
I told.
Even Bliss didn't do it. Bliss is smarter than that.
I know. I saw him at SEMA and I saw the wrap. I was like, dude. I mean, I get why you did it, but I loved it.
Right?
Ah.
There's such a, I think the carbon Kevlar, it's ugly, but it's so cool.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, it's like, that makes up for it. I don't think it's that great looking. I have the little smoke delete kits that are behind my quarter panels in the back of my car, and the stuff's awesome. It's his car's, I don't want to say it's understated because there's no confusion that it's a beautiful, awesome car. But when you realize that, something that awesome, and those kits aren't cheap. I got a quote from Kristaps on it, and I wasn't even close in the ballpark of being able to afford that. I'd love to, but
Oops. Yeah, dude. It's so. What do you think? So I mean, that he's going to be a good top contender as well this season. What who do your eyes on as far as competitors? Like, who are you looking at where you go, I would like to line up with this person because I know it's going to be a good battle. Who are some of the people you see?
Let's see here, because I mean, Rome would be one of the ones I'd say, but he's moving up. Is Trent moving up?
I think
Yes.
Trent's going to stay. Is he moving
Oh,
up
really?
though?
All right.
I don't know.
Because last I heard is that he was supposed to be moving up.
Yeah.
But then again, that was a long time ago. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not too sure on that. I mean, I know Trent throws down. He's consistent. He's a great driver. I mean, I know going head to head with him, it'd be the same thing. I wish Donati was still running.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I
Yeah.
know he's building another car, which is
Yeah.
cool. He's whatever the hell he's building. But
Yeah.
a fun car.
God, I almost need to. I'm drawing such
Ola
a.
Jaeger. Ola
Yeah.
Jaeger's pretty good at what he does.
Well, that's good. Is Josh Robinson moving up?
I
heard
laugh.
so.
That's what I heard. But then
Because
again,
they're
I
looking
think
real
I think
fun.
this whole Corona thing just kind of threw out
Yeah.
any for sure plans of anyone at this point. but-
Exactly.
Look at the FD roster right now because
It's changing every up. Just refresh the page and it'll
Yeah.
just change. Yeah, I think there's only 3 guys that I heard officially were moving up. Rome,
Robbins is moving
Alec
up.
Robbins, yeah, Alec Robbins, and I forget the other one. I don't know, but yeah, I remember only seeing like a couple of drivers, maybe.
yeah.
But we're seeing a lot more guys stacked on this season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll
So-
see. Is LZ gonna run again? I know running with Adam would be sick.
I've
That was the
talked to
third,
some
maybe.
people, and I heard he's running Pro 2 this year.
Okay.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, and
And
you
I
know
think
else-
I think it's a
obvious-
time. I think
okay.
it's a time thing. I think
I gotcha.
he doesn't have the time to run all 7 rounds.
Oh, yeah.
He
it's
ain't
a-
got the balls. I'm sorry, I said it.
You know who?
Like,
But
that's
don't
what
don't
people
quote me
have
on
to line
that.
up
But I've
against.
heard that's what his plan was to run Pro 2.
Adam could run Pro 1. Adam has an amazing program for Pro 1, and I think he has driving talent definitely to run Pro 1. But I think he needs another year Pro 2 personally.
Yeah.
And it's more of it's the earn your stripes.
I think
type
he
thing.
would agree with you too.
Yeah, it's just a drifting code type thing. There's certain drivers that we will justify that come into Pro 1, kind of unannounced. Like, oh, who are you? Daigo being one of them. Well, we know who you are. Come
Mhm.
on in. But I don't think I would put Adam LZ as impactful into drifting community as a Daigo.
Right.
He may be better known, but that's for different reasons. It's not his
Yeah.
driving style thing. When you talk to Daigo, if you could talk to Daigo, he's not the most personable person.
Right.
He's not at all.
Mhm.
We know him because he throws down as a driver. We see what he drives and how he drives and what he builds and stuff like that. So he's not. He's earned his stripes to do that. Which, I think you're a Pro 1 driver. And I think you have a Pro 1 car, and I think you have a Pro 1 program. But I think you would communicate with me the same way. Where if last season you got your license, you probably stay in Pro 2.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I don't want to move up and then get my shit pushed in. It's like it's one of those things. Like I can admit it as it's different from running a really solid line and running a good, but also being able to handle that pressure. I can't even lie. If I was up on line and I saw, sitting there with James Dean next to me, yeah, my heart rate would go up quite a bit. That's one of those things. You just gotta, you need that seat time and that comfortability level. And that just takes time.
Yeah, and not to mention just the added grip and the added commitment you have to drive with at that level.
I ran a set of 285s in my car in Vegas, and it was ridiculous. Like,
it's a whole different car when you put a big tire on there.
I had to initiate 3 times.
Got it, though. Oh, man. All right.
And it felt like the car had like 300 horsepower. Granted, I was going 10 mile an hour faster, but it was crazy. So.
It is what the guys are doing in Pro 1, and like it's difficult for me as a spotter. I'm watching what these guys do, but the jump, because we're setting up in the spotter tower kind of at the end of Pro 2, so we're watching the end of Pro 2. We're trying to watch you guys as far as line goes and what you guys are running, especially because you're already in a tandem practice when we're kind of going in qualifying.
Yeah. So
we'll watch you guys, and you guys will come to an end. There's like a 10-minute gap, and then the first Pro 1 car goes out there, and holy crap. And the Pro 2 cars are built now on the same level. Your car is a Pro 1 capable car. Yes, it is. And the only difference really is a tire. Right. And the amount of speed these guys carry through the turns and their reflexes of how they have to adjust to that is insane. So, yeah, running a 285, I can only imagine you just going, this is totally different.
I think Texas is the perfect track to that displays that. The reaction times that you have to get that transition right into the wall perfect.
Yep.
And the catastrophic consequences if you don't.
Yeah, Texas is one of those ones too. It's like, because it's such a throttle heavy course. I mean, Orlando is to the same degree, like as much as percentage of how much you're on the gas, but with Texas, just because the speed is so high, and there's not really a big variance in line, that if you're not timing that transition on the power alley correctly, that guy's going to walk away from you. And same thing, the only place you can really cut the line, now granted I haven't driven there, but I've watched it for 5 years or whatever, is coming out to the wall. But the only way to make up that time is to completely sacrifice that outer zone. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, Texas is one of those ones, like you said, the reaction time. And then when you start getting those cars so grippy like those Pro 1 cars are with that huge tire, is that margin for error and that adjustment that you can make as the driver is so much smaller. If you don't get back to power quick enough, you have to grab e-brake just for a split second, that car's going to immediately try to straighten. Mm-hmm. So no, it's those drivers. I mean, they're on a completely different level. It's exciting to think about getting up to that.
And I know you can see stuff like especially coming from circle track, watching Chelsea Denofa and how he adapts to 305, 315.
Yeah.
Like so, how he adapts is, well, let's resort to Texas. The guy can stay full throttle, throw it in almost backwards, but that's how he has to get the car to get to the wall. He has to overshoot that inner with full throttle to then even come. And just to see how those cars have been set up, I'm sure you're fully aware who does their suspension and that type of background. But these guys are adapting cars now to massive tires.
Right.
Massive tires. Right. And I kind of like Pro 2's 255 rule, honestly. They say it's an equalizer, but it's not. But it's kind of slow everything down, but speeds everything back up in the same sense.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious, who do you think Pro 1's going to come out? Who do you think finished outside the top 16 in Pro 1 last year is going to make the biggest jump into this year?
I mean, now I know he was well within the top 16 at the final standings, but I know Turk is going to throw down in that new car. That's going to be exciting, hopping into something with years of notes on. And Steph is a smart guy, so that's going to be he's going to be up there in the top. And it's going to sound like I'm playing favorites, obviously, with Gregg here. I know Ryan's going to throw down. Every year they've gotten, that car is getting more ironed out, and Ryan, you can tell, is just driving more and more confidently. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things too, is, I mean, we all know that Ryan is a fucking animal behind the wheel. You watch any video of him in that S14, it's insane. Mm-hmm. And then that car, even though that car is so quick, you can tell that Z is just on another level. And every event is just getting better, and I think you guys, I mean, being somewhat of a fresh, I don't want to say a fresh team because this will be the third season running it.
Yeah.
It's that's that comfortability level and just that I don't want to say community, but just teamwork, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. This season's the first season now where we're setting the Z up more like Ryan's 14. So we did MR2 power steering pump to get him used to that feel. With the same gear rate, the same ratio, and added like a front sway bar and stiffening up the car to behave more like his 14. But we could do all that now with going from a 275 to a bigger tire, 295.
Yeah.
Now we rely more on the rear section of the grip, slow down the front, plant the front a little bit more. So but realistically, that's just come from data. That's just come from literally seeing how cars act back to back from round after round, having replays to watch and things like that. To go, okay, well, when we go to this round, the car's pitching too much. What do? We change spring rates and stuff of that nature. So thank you for noticing that. I do appreciate the compliment. But I think Kazuya is going to give Pro One back the rest of the money.
He was on something last year. As soon as he switched over.
Mm-hmm.
They had you knew something was up with that GTR when they had to start running an 18 to 20 stagger.
It was so bad. 18 to 21.
Or
it's
21. Because they were running those big Achilles ATR2s.
Oh my god! And that's the boy Jerry Yang, but he's like, because the problem was is they want to run a 3.0. They only could run an 18-inch, and then it went to a 21. So the front wheels had to be 21s. And he's like, I mean, it's not going to work, y'all.
Right.
It's not, so he had to drop it down to an 18, but he's like, I got really expensive 21-inch rims I'm not going to get rid of.
Well, that thing looks sick. That car is rad. But
when it's parked.
Yeah.
When it's parked. But you're right. Robbie Nishida tried messing around with it. Didn't work with Robbie Nishida, same car.
Yeah.
You're right. Kazuya put him in a 15. And, I mean, that car is built to that. That's a Tomei long block, R35 block. That's a gnarly car.
Mm-hmm.
You know who else stepped up a lot? Not a driver, but Part Shop Max. I'm really impressed.
Yeah.
What they're, I mean, that car, that S15 works great. The stuff, it looks promising on what they're doing with the BMWs and the E46 and E36s. So,
I mean, they're making the Corvette a more drift accessible vehicle.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Is, obviously Matt is incredibly smart. I think Matt's very analytical. I mean, obviously he's building his own car, so he knows the mechanical side of things, but he also, as a driver, can interpret what it's doing. And I think all of his feedback that he's giving PBM is helping them across the board.
I agree.
Yeah. Corvette, the Corvette's the next ass chassis, I think.
Yeah.
Don't say it, but you're right. But don't say it. I'm not ready to accept it. Maybe like a C4 Corvette. Like, I'd be like, okay, let's talk. But like,
no. As soon as you get to that C5 with that LS1, it's like, and they're so cheap now. Yeah. It's like, why not?
Oh, they're awesome. One of my best friends, he just got a base C6. He got all the PBM front end kit and just some coilovers. And he was still running, I forgot what size of tire I got him. 275, 25 or 30 19s on the back of it, like some tiny little rubber bands.
Yeah.
He was running it out the road course here in Vegas, and I rode with him, and I could not believe how good that car felt. I hated how good it was.
Yeah, I mean, okay, it's the next X chassis. Tell me one body kit for the car. Don't even tell me a good one. Tell me a body kit for the car.
Right.
Yeah.
Rear spoiler. Like.
Yeah, unless you go CO6, like OEM plus.
Fuck off! That's not something. I think drifting is also an aesthetic.
So here's the thing,
first.
though, with the Corvettes. I mean, there's kits out there, but they're all super expensive. The real question is who's gonna make something affordable?
2F.
That looks good. Yeah.
We're gonna look at. You gotta look at a fiberglass manufacturer based out of the U.S. And I think those dudes are smart. And if I know, I mean, they're probably already ahead of the curve. But yeah, they need to. I don't know, man.
Because I can name you kits, they're just not cheap.
Name me cars that actually have rear bumpers. That's what I want to hear about. Like a Corvette has zero crash impact area in the rear. So like, look at Dirk and those dudes. If you see them wall ride, they're tire riding.
Yeah.
Like Matt Field, like that's it. That tire's on the wall. And I don't know about you, but I'd like a buffer.
Yeah.
I don't know, with my $100,000,
Sure.
$200,000 drift car, I'd love a buffer. So my argument is, if you're going to spend the money, look at Mustangs.
Yeah,
Mustangs have tons of body kits.
Yeah. That is true. But I don't know, they're just so big and they look big.
No. You can't. It's a fact. It's not an argumentable thing. No.
Yeah.
No. You can't dispute with me on this. A Mustang is a better car than a Corvette because you can get body kits. And the discussion, they both come V8s. They're front engine, rear wheel drive, obnoxious American redneck mobiles, but one offers body kits. The other one offers rear spoiler options. That's not a cool drift car. That's a car.
Well, how about we just go get a Hellcat and then just have some of those yellow dividers in the front for you?
What do you think we are? You think drifters are all just idiots? Are you calling us
No. I'm from Detroit. You got to remember this. That's all we have around here.
Oh my God! This guy's trying to get my blood pressure all fucked up. Talking about just get a Challenger. Challengers are good cars. You get the fucking lock to lock.
Got that 700 horsepower.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Okay, argue with me. Let's go. Let's go. What's the best American drift car chassis then? We want to talk about body kits, parts availability, drift competitiveness.
I don't know how you're going to not argue a Corvette here.
It probably is the Corvette.
It is the Corvette. It goes down between the Mustang and the Corvette, but it's the Corvette.
Damn it!
I wish the Camaros were better. Just no one's
name
name
a good American sports car other than the
Dodge
Corvette.
Viper. That's the ringer though. I can't just throw that out there.
Yeah,
know. If you could get like a first generation Dodge Viper, like a 1993 Dodge Viper with a side exit exhaust.
Yeah, if you have the balls to try, and drift one of those, I mean.
Yeah, bud. You have a whole center. You can mount 3 hydros on that center console. Like trans tunnel clearances. That's not a question, bud. You're basically a Hummer.
Well, you don't even need a new trans. It's already got a nice trans in it. It's got a great engine.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't know
I
how
don't
much.
know. I know nothing about Dodge.
I know. Now that I think about it, I don't know how much the V10's like rev limiter, but.
I don't know. I've only seen like 3 in my existence of being alive. It's made by like Fiat, and I've only seen 3.
Well, yeah. I mean, everyone that's driven them has either like crashed them or died. Driving them. So it's like.
Yeah. That's a good argument. So speaking of crashing and dying, Blake, if you were to change a drift chassis, any drift chassis. No expenses prepared. If you want to be like, I'm going to call it Bliss and get an HGK car sent over. What are you going with?
I'm excited to see what HGK does with, what's that guy's name in Europe with the new Supra? I think that'll be sick, but that's not exotic enough. If you have like the one all end all.
The one all end all. We've seen, what is that, Aston Martin? Some guy in Dubai's got an Aston Martin.
I'm not going to lie. I'm a fanboy of Mad Mike's Lamborghini.
Does it work, though?
I don't care if it works. We didn't ask if it works.
Could you imagine building a Lamborghini drift car and you're like, all right, let's go, guys. And you're like, fuck, this sucks. Like, it doesn't work.
I don't think I would want that. I mean, aside from the obvious reasons, but I'm not a fan of exotic cars for some reason. I think I've worked at some of those places where you have to try to get people to learn how to drive them, and maybe I'm desensitized to it. The cool factor's gone for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
There's a 69 Camaro in Formula Drift.
Personally,
remember that?
Yeah. I want to see some wagons.
You have a Super B? Like, what's up?
Personally, I just want to see some more wagons drifting.
So this was years ago because my work is affiliated with GM. I really was trying to pitch to see if I could get a CTS-V wagon.
One of the best cars ever made.
But that is my favorite car of all time.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah. I think Formula Drift could use more wagons because when we look at like what EDC is doing and stuff like that, like other series out there are wagons drifting, just not our series.
Right.
Even in like Pro-Am, I know there's one guy out there with a BMW that's really, really rowdy.
But you just don't see them. The thing is, wagons never sold well in America either. So that was part of the problem, and that's my problem. Is I love wagons. I have 3 of them. But
where's BMW getting like these study groups where they're like, I talked about this the other day. I was like, who are they interviewing? We're like, let's see if hot hatchbacks will sell in the U.S. Let's get together a study group. Because if they get together, my friends, we'd be having all-wheel drive 2-door coupes everywhere. Like, everything would be a hot hatchback.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I've heard, like, the problem is I want a manual wagon. You can't buy a new one.
Right.
Where are you gonna find one? Except for I think you can get the Golf All-Track in all-wheel drive. No, not the All-Track, just the wagon. But it's front-wheel drive.
All-Track makes the car sound boring.
Yeah,
That's a boring
it's like a cheesy all-road, Audi all-road.
Yeah, no, call a car like Nürburgring edition, and you have my interest. Something. Yeah, give it All-Track. Gross. TDI. Ew.
But I don't know. I think that's why I like Europe is they just got so many more cooler cars. Even like diesel stuff over there. They got diesels drifting and shit and all kinds of random stuff. I'm a big Volvo wagon dude. I see Volvo wagons over there drifting all the time. Like
they
needs
just heard that 240s were the drift car and they got it wrong. They got the wrong 240. Well, okay, but Blake, we cut you off on my own tangent. What is your ultimate drift car?
Yeah, I think the CTSV wagon would be badass.
Mm-hmm.
I really had a lot of ideas, the rear mount radiator and ducting the roof into it, where the side profile stays the same and just stuff like that. I think it'd be so sick.
So real question is, why has no one really done a CTSV? I know we had 2 ATSs, but what's the big difference between the ATS and the CTS?
Taylor could only find an ATS at the junkyard, so he got an ATS. So we'll start there.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of funny. Now, don't take it for fact, but the ATS underneath is almost identical to the E92. Everything,
Really?
subframes, front end, rear end, everything. So like
Wait,
Austin Meek's front kit on his car is an E92 kit from that SLR.
What?
So like, not that you could bolt anything from one car to the other, but the way
the 3 matches.
Multi-link rear suspension, the kinematics of the rear end, it's almost identical. The front, same. The new CTSVs are just massive. Obviously they're only available as a sedan.
Yeah, well, you're talking the LSA ones, so like
okay, so we're
Gen
thinking,
2.
yeah, previous gen.
Gen 2s. Even the Gen 1s are pretty cheap, and like nobody drives those.
Right.
You can get a Gen 1.
Gen 1s are cheap, and I don't know, I feel like, because they still have
I've seen one drift, and it was badass. It was slammed. It was at final bout
the black
2
one.
years. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yep.
It was beautiful.
It was on the work XT7s, I think.
Mm-hmm. It was
The
beautiful.
one on the internet.
Yeah.
It's no, you're right. I love that we're talking about this because there's a lot of drift chassis that are being slept on. But like,
and it comes with an LS.
Right.
Factory.
But okay, so why is nobody using the GTO? We've seen a GTO win a championship.
They're ugly.
They're hideous.
They are hideous.
There's like one that was at LS Fest this last year, and it was kind of cool looking because the dude made like some custom like fender flare over fenders and made the thing wide, but it still looks like a bean. Like, I don't know, they're just like, yeah, they're not great.
But it to the bone, it has every characteristic that you'd want.
Yeah.
Like at the core of it, like it's got a good crash area, it's weight balance, but I don't even see them being used as good track cars.
No,
nobody wants anything to do with them.
Right.
Yeah,
they're heavy.
To be honest, and that's the thing with drifting is looks has a lot to do with it. So there's a lot of people that just aren't a fan of the looks. They're not gonna spend the time and energy and money into doing anything with them, which is unfortunate because I like ugly cars, and that means nobody,
Well, going even further into that, who thinks a stock S13 coupe is good looking?
Okay,
well,
good point.
That's what I have, but yes, I understand.
Yeah, cool. Like, because we know what they can be and we appreciate them.
You had one. Yeah, you had one. Yeah, you're just as argumentative. It's you're absolutely right, and I think that's just, I think the aftermarket accessory aspect of those vehicles just makes it so intriguing.
Yeah.
You know, the stupid bolt-on, everything's bolt-on with those cars. What am I saying? Like,
I mean, you can say that for the 350Z as well. I mean, it just kind of moved on to that car, you know. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, the aftermarket's just not fair.
I mean, debatably, the 350Z is an ugly car, though. I mean, I don't think they're the best-looking car.
No, I think, to me, they're ugly, but, I mean, it is what it is. Here's the thing, it's like, you have a 280Z, beautiful car. Nissan did an amazing job designing that. And then, I mean, obviously that, what was the 300ZX? I'm not sold on that.
I was right there.
I was just like,
you just stopped at the 280.
I was like, and then it just got worse. And then I don't know. It was just so disappointing.
There's not many brands that get better with age. Fortunately, the BMW, like you drive, I think over an E46, just those generations, every time BMW comes out with another 3 Series, I do truly believe it's better looking than the last.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you guys have seen the new Volvos, but I'm in love with them.
Dude, have you seen the price tag? Have you seen the price tag on those Volvos?
Stop! Don't break me down. Okay? Stop it! You've been breaking me down.
I've tried it. I've tried the pricing out thing, and it's just like, man, you're killing me, Volvo. Just. I want one of those too.
Them. I know that I'm getting older now because I'm like, fuck that Volvo. That's how I know it. I'm like, what's the crash test rating on these cars? That's never something I was ever concerned with. I would take crash bars off my cars, and now I'm like, how safe is this for me and my family that doesn't exist yet?
You know, I think a big reason, too, with drifting, why aesthetics are so important, you know, not only is the background, I mean, drifting came from, like, the cars being sick-looking and low and whatever, but we spend so much more time working on the cars and looking at them than we do driving them. It's like, if you go to the track and you don't have a major problem with the car, like, that's sick. That's a great day. And then the rest of the time prepping it, you're looking at it and you're appreciating how sick the thing looks.
It's a social media sport.
That, too.
You know, you gotta get those followers. Okay, but real question, since we were talking about how the origins came from all Japan and great looking cars, what happened to FD in Japan, or what happened to what's the organization that does the Japan D1? D1. What happened to those cars? Dude, they're all monster trucks.
They got better with age. They still look amazing. I don't know.
Those are sick. They have sick arrows, so that helps.
I don't know. They look. They're so high up, and I don't know. I mean, I get it.
Unfortunately, American culture has split off into Japanese culture. Unfortunately, in this case, how the cars are set up. I mean, you have people like Yokoi coming over to the U.S. and then going back to D1, seeing how he had to then keep up with our cars, which is just grip monsters compared to more of their judging criteria is completely different. So nonetheless, you bring those cars back, you bring guys like Daigo back, and you bring them over there, and they start setting up their cars like rocket ships. I mean, I was watching D1 2018 recaps like yesterday or the day before. I was watching Daigo's Chaser, and it just leaves everything.
Yeah.
Like, from grid, it is just gone. And, like, yeah, he's a great follow driver as well, but, like, nobody even gets a chance to tandem with this guy. And, I mean, it kind of works. I guess over there. I don't know. I would love to know how they react to it, because you'll go to a D1 event and you'll still see the proper D1 setup cars as well. You'll still see an 8.6 out there. You know, so
it's the same thing American drifting went through 7, 8, I wouldn't even say 10 years ago. You know, most of the cars were, you know, there were a lot of sick looking cars. Like, you didn't have to have a dog box. I mean, I think the only cars that did were like the ASD cars. Yeah. But no one was really that fast. And then Daigo came over with over 1,000 horsepower, and everyone stepped up their game. And then once one person does it, everyone sort of has to do it. You know, and now that same thing, I think, is sort of going on with D1, except almost to more of an extreme.
Yeah.
I love that we always kept Taka Eano as like our benchmark. We're like, damn, these cars are getting fast. They're running away from Taka. Round after round, these cars are getting fast. Like, he was our benchmark, the poor guy in the Corolla. But it's true. Once the Corolla couldn't keep up any longer, like we realized how fast our cars in the U.S. have gotten.
I mean, you saw Vaughn's car in the drag strip.
What did that thing run? Like a 9, or didn't it?
Is it a low 9?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something like that. And like not even set up for that. I'm sure they like kind of set it up, but
they had like drag radials on it. I mean, like a Nitto off the shelf tire, but yeah, just
it's
like
just
you really
stupid.
put a drag slick on there and give them a weekend of testing. And that car is because you go to the track, you've shot these cars, you've been around these cars, we've all been around these cars. Those suckers are fast.
Yeah.
Like you just see it. Like that's why they allow us to jump, at grid, or right there at the starting grid, the follow driver can jump the lead driver, and that's on purpose because some of these cars just grip up, and even with a chicane, you cannot. Federico Cerifo, great guy, crazy fast car. We're talking about it's a fucking Ferrari, and he has to jump these cars to even remotely tandem with them.
Yeah.
Which he has done a lot better this year, by the way, or last year.
Well, now
I think he's got more seat time with that car. It's
ditching the twin turbo setup.
So smart.
Supercharger, whatever it was.
I think it was both. I think it was twin super turbo. I don't know, man.
It always helps when you take 200 pounds off the front of a car. It's
Jesus.
not going to do anything bad.
Yeah, and he's such a passionate guy. So you have to, for people who don't know him, he's like a drifting OG. Like he's a D1 driver. He has like 2 or 3 Team Orange cars in his personal collection.
Yeah.
Like this guy knows drifting. I mean, he was trained from some of the best, and he's like, damn, this Ferrari's a whole nother beast. Like it just doesn't do what drift cars do.
Yeah.
Like it'll link a course, but it's not. It's not like a Corvette.
And
it's not
big.
like a BMW. It's huge. Those front fenders are massive.
Yeah.
Yeah. The front overhang of that car is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a Ferrari, and I'll tell you what, I was almost pissed off when they announced him coming. I was like mad that he was coming, and like he caught fire, and like I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of like fuck yeah, at Long Beach, but like he got out, he was fine, and I was just like yeah, get that Ferrari out of here, and then I started to like meet the guy, and I started to understand who he was, and I started to see his team and what they were, and I can easily say right now he's probably one of my favorite Pro 1 drivers out there, like as a personality. And seeing now his progression in that car, like we're talking about, and the car changing, the car setup, everything he does, how he runs the program, that dude's a cool fucking dude.
And that car had grip in the rain. I don't know if you remember Atlanta. He was on, I think it was Wissik's door, and he almost beat him.
That's my boy. I like him.
I don't know why. It had more grip than Wissik's car in the rain.
Mm-hmm. No, it's true, and he talked about that in his own little funny Italian way, but he still mentions that to this day. But no, I think I don't know how we got on this topic. Chassis and FD. I don't know.
That's what happens when we talk, Greg. It's just we have these fun conversations about everything.
Let's switch over to whiskey. It's just whiskey in here now. Tall cup of whiskey.
Oh man, and it's already been an hour and 45 minutes.
Awesome. Yeah, check this out. So, got a girlfriend now. She left a note for me. It says, BRB, gonna pick up wings. Should be good. Want anything? You sexy as fuck. Get yourself a girl like this. Passing me notes on the fly. I'm gonna have some hot wings tonight.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. Well, I guess Blake, you want to do like a quick shout out to people that have helped you out, and then kind of go into where they can find you at, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So first and foremost, have to obviously thank my dad. Up until this year, working with Greg and the guys over there, it's pretty much just been he and I on the team. I mean, they have D-Rams. We've had a little bit of help from some other guys, Monadell's team, Dave Ferrara, Michael Thomas, and then Alec and his dad. They were awesome. But my dad's a huge part of the program. As far as sponsors go, we talked about me being pretty loyal to who I stick with and who I like. Sherilyn at Achilles was awesome. Had sort of a weird situation going with Falcon years ago, and she picked me up with literally like a week before the first round of Top Drift, and it's been solid since. David Stantz, let's see here, Phoenix Industries for all the fittings and everything in the car. I'm going to sound like a corporate little monster right now, but I actually pull up the list. No, because everyone's been a huge help with me.
But that's the thing, though, is in there's so much that goes into driving a program like this, and there's so many people that have to help along the way to make all these things possible.
Yeah, no, that's what a lot of people don't understand is all the moving parts behind the, even with this season getting extended a couple extra months, it's, there's still so much that you got to get figured out and so many things that have to come together smoothly. But no, it's been cool. Some good partnerships have been made. Obviously, Ben at EFI University has built a really stout motor. We're still going to refresh it, but it literally has zero need to. It's just, why not? We're spinning the thing high and making a bunch of power. Might as well go through it.
You got a bunch of radium goods on that car. I know that much.
Yeah, Tina over at Radium, she's been a big help. One of the issues that we had in Orlando, she actually overnighted me parts, which it wasn't even really their deal, but still sent them right over to help me get situated, because we had a practice day right before, and I literally made 2 laps just scrubbing in tires and bed and brakes, and then something failed. So when we showed up to Orlando, that's when I had literally 0 seat time. So let's see here. Looking down the list, Ian at F83. He's obviously
great guy.
Yep. Ian's a little character. Definitely enjoy having him aboard and having him obviously working with both of us now, me and Ryan and the whole Coro team. 2F, Chris and Paco, they've been sick. They actually, the rear LFCs that they sell for the E92s, they actually drafted it off of my car because the tool that was building the car initially was renting shop space from them, so they used my chassis to make those.
Cool.
Now they've been awesome. WiseFab's been great. Never had a car with it. Always ran parts shop max, and moving over to WiseFab, it was a good change.
Mm-hmm.
Willwood's been great. They helped me debut the car at Long Beach.
Sick debut, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it worked out pretty good. They've helped out a bunch. Comp Cams, Fast, RHS, that whole group. They've done a bunch. Hoonigan, obviously been friends with Hurt and Scotto for a while, so having them in your corner is never a bad thing either.
Right.
I'm sure there's a bunch I'm missing, but a lot of people that have really helped me out over the last few years, especially this last year.
Yeah. So we're going to see you at Formula Drift Pro 2. What about Grid Lives? You think about Grid Lives or any
trying to make the Grid Live stuff happen. I'm trying to get my, we talked about my FC a little bit and finally getting that situated. So Dave over at Arizona, Motorsports Wiring, he did all the badass loom and electronics package on Honvedell's car. He's doing the full chassis or the engine setup on that car, switching ECU brands and whatnot. And once that thing's fired off, hoping to hit the Grid Life series. I'd like to run a couple of those Clutch Kickers events, try my hand.
Hey, dude, we both know from experience. You better come ready.
Oh yeah.
It ain't no clown show. I mean, that's serious. That's like a serious comp.
Yeah. I mean, these guys are literally banging doors match after match after match after match. Like, yeah, it's fun. I recommend it.
Yeah. So I'd like to do that. I'd love to do the Grid Life stuff. Just drive as much as I can. Have some fun with it and hang with the boys.
Mm-hmm.
It's the biggest thing.
You're not building a whole new car.
Right, yeah. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Plan on using the BMW for a couple years.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, that's awesome. Where can they all find you at?
Biggest place is just on Instagram. So Instagram tag is just Bae, B-A-E _Olsen. On Facebook's my name, but yeah, Instagram is basically where I'm at.
Nice. Awesome. Well, again, thank you for coming on, bud, and just giving us all this amazing knowledge.
Yeah, man.
Anyone that has an E92 and wants to do anything, like he's like what you need to strive to be, pretty much. This car, you just have to go check it out if you haven't seen it. But again, thank you guys for watching the podcast, and be sure to like and subscribe. And check this guy out, Greg over at CoreWorks, if you have any drifting needs, because he kind of does. You do everything pretty much. So
I do stuff.
You do some stuff,
Some stuff.
Yeah, but yeah. You have any last words for Blake or anything at all, Greg?
Nah, man. All right. Yeah. Out of your travels this year, which one are you looking to go an R at? Not go race. Which one are we gonna go get a beer, hang out? What's your favorite state? What's your favorite location?
Jersey's going to be cool because I've never been there, but I don't know what's around Englishtown, so it might be,
I think it's like next to New York or something, isn't it?
yeah,
I don't know.
It's close. I don't know. We can find a crossroads there, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, nice little crossroads action. That's another story for another time, boys.
Oh boy.
Now, Sonoma is one of those events where if you don't qualify, you can't hate life because there's plenty of stuff to do out there. It's not like a wasted trip.
Yeah.
So, going into the city and getting to hang out there would be fun. I think you can find trouble anywhere you go, but Sonoma would be sick.
Cool. Well, we'll get a beer in Sonoma then.